This episode is sponsored by Proverbs 31 Business Systems. Are you tired of feeling like your business depends on you for everything? If your business slows down every time you step away, you may be the bottleneck. At Proverbs 31 Business Systems, we help faith-driven, service-based entrepreneurs build systems, workflows, and automation that allow their businesses to run without burnout. Take the 5-minute bottleneck test to discover what's really slowing your business down and what to fix first. Simply scan the QR code shown on the screen or visit proverbs31businesssystems.com. Now let's get into today's episode.
Virtuous woman, she's worth more than gold. She doesn't.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Becoming the Proverbs 31 podcast. My name is Choma Kende, also known as Special Agent Chi, your host. And on today's show, we have Pastor Joy Nwokoro. Pastor Joy Nwokoro is a marriage and family life pastor, relationship coach, speaker, and host of Relationship Lab on CKUW 95.9 FM in Winnipeg, Canada. She's passionate about helping singles, couples, and families build healthier relationships through practical wisdom, honest conversations, and faith-based insights. Through speaking, coaching, radio, and community initiatives, Joy creates a space where people can grow, connect, and build stronger foundations for life and relationships. Welcome to the show, Joy.
Thank you. Thank
Welcome.
you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad. Thank you so much.
Oh, no
Thank you.
problem. Thank you. Thanks for being on. I really appreciate it. So, how
Yeah.
would you describe what you do in one sentence?
That would be helping to raise fulfilled Christian singles, empowering them to marry their God-ordained partners, and helping them build thriving marriages.
Oh, that's a good one. So for those who are meeting you for the first time, can you share who you are, the work you do through coaching, ministry, speaking, and the relationship lab that you do?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Thank you. So, to start with, before I got called into the ministry, I saw a void, if you may, in the hearts of singles. You know, I mingled with people who would say there are no genuine men out there. There's no sincere lady out there. People struggling, people trying, let's try to see if it will work, you're trying. And then you would find people who have done trials for like maybe with 3 to 4 people, jumping and hopping from one wrong relationship to another, cycle after cycle, patterns after patterns. And I realized that there must be something much more, right, with singleness. People think the single phase of life is that time when you have to keep experimenting with relationships. Some people, out of naivety, find themselves in relationships they ought not be in. Some battle, different, problems and all of that. I thought to myself, there must be something more than that, and then coming from an angle where also I had to go through hurt at a season. I knew there was much more than that. So when God called me into this ministry, I realized that all of what he taught me, all of what he wants me to teach people, to teach singles, to help, equip people to build wonderful and kingdom marriages, I realized that there are things I have also practiced and it has worked for me in the past and it still is working for me. So with what I do, I help people understand that, first of all, in order to get marriage right, in order to build that which God wants you to build with another human, if you will, then there has to be that place where you have to identify who you are. Identify who you are. The very foundation of many problems in marriage, in relationships, has to do with identity. A lot of people, yes, some would say they are Christians. I am tongue speaking. I am demon chasing. I know what I do, and all of that. But right there at the core is still the issue of identity. So I try to make people understand that for you to get marriage right, for you to get relationship right, and maybe even to relate with people, maybe not for relationship or married purposes, maybe just for to your colleagues or your neighbors, there has to be identity. When you know who you are, when you know whose you are, then you understand God's will in your life. Then you know, okay, this is how I'm supposed to show up every day, show up when it comes to choosing, my life partner, show up when it comes to choosing someone I say if I want to date, or show up at the marketplace, show up in the workplace. So it's all encompassing. Everything still boils down to identity. That one important factor. Who are you?
Man, that's man. If because because I'm married, I know in terms of like when you're single, it's like you feel, and I want to also say just based on the culture we come from, the African culture we come from. Well, let me not say just African. I feel like maybe it's like just the culture in general. It's like once you
Mm,
reach a certain age, it's like okay, now you
yeah,
gotta get married, and then that pressure too. I feel like also boils
exactly.
down to it is like that pressure. Okay, you have to get married. Okay, you have to your biological, especially for women, your biological clock is ticking. So you gotta just start getting married. So it's like
Yeah,
you're so
exactly.
you're so right. You gotta be content. I think the thing is you gotta be content in what you do. Like especially
Hmm.
just for ladies, do that thing
Hmm.
like in terms of that you want to do. Be
Right,
content in yourself and just
right,
don't let the pressure of just everybody feel like, okay, I have to get married now. Oh, my
right.
biological clock is ticking. God can do anything.
Mhm.
People are giving birth
Mhm.
at what? 35, 40
Exactly,
at that age. So you just don't know in
exactly.
terms of, and the thing is with marriage, people what they don't teach people, I feel like, is they don't teach people that marriage is it's not just a game like boyfriend girlfriend. This is a covenant.
Hmm.
If you look at the
That's right.
example of a marriage of just like God with the Israelites, this is a covenant.
Yeah,
This is not just a piece of paper. This is a
yeah,
covenant.
exactly.
You're marrying
Hmm.
on the your husband's side, you're marrying like all those, especially the spiritual aspect. You're marrying like whatever the demons and everything that's there. You guys are now
Yeah.
joined together.
Exactly, exactly. And interestingly, I began to do a research, recently, and I realized that when a man and a woman joins together, yes, we understand the biblical factor where, the Bible says a man will leave his parent, father and mother, and cleave to his child, to his wife, and two of them will become one. But looking at it realistically, you realize that when people get married, you marry it becomes like a marriage of six people, you, your wife, the parents, your parents-in-law on both sides, because yes, we understand, biblically what the Bible says, it's man and woman becoming one. But looking at it from where we come from, especially in Africa, you realize that you can't do marriage in isolation.
Nope.
It's not like in the Western world where people can say, okay, come, let's elope, and then the parents don't, they don't care what's happening. In Africa, the parents-in-law want to be, they want to be aware of what's happening.
Hmm.
Not like, okay, they want to poke their noses into your business, but of course they should be able to say, okay, this is the kind of person my son is getting married to. This is the kind of person my daughter is getting married to, and all of that. So it isn't a case of, okay, it is just you and I alone. Yes,
Hmm.
technically it's both of you alone, but you're married into a family, you're married from a family, to a very large extent. There has to be that harmony where
Hmm.
you're living in harmony with them. They understand per time, okay, are they in harmony? Is it like a problematic marriage? Is it something for us to to worry about? Is it a prayer point and all? Because we all have patterns. We all have patterns. Nobody was planted into a perfect family, right? We all have patterns. Yes, we may not come from dysfunctional families where you don't have the father and mother, together. Even in our homes where you have the parents together, somehow there might be one or two things, that if care is not taken, the kids there could mirror, you
Hmm.
know. And that's why we say, especially when we are coaching, we say don't just stop at telling your kids, don't do that. Don't do that. Model what you don't want them to do. You can't be telling your kids, okay, smoking isn't allowed in this home, or this isn't allowed in this home, but because I'm an adult, I can do it. Because you're a kid, you can't do it. So they
Mhm.
don't go by what you tell them. They go by, okay, what am I seeing my parents do? So they mirror it. It's something they take on, because my parents say, okay, I shouldn't do this, doesn't mean I can't do it because I see them do it. And because they're my first role model, right? I can actually do these things. So we ought to live by what we say. So we are
Mhm.
doers. I mean, look at what the Bible says. It says, don't just be hearers of the word. It says, be ye also doers of the word. So with our kids, let's not relegate them to that level where you're saying, okay, don't just be hearers, because of, I mean, we're not with something we don't want you to do, but you also do them. Let them see it, let them model it, and then, you're sure that you're raising kids that, God will be proud of.
Yep. So that's right. Practice what you preach, not the African or let me not even say that, like do as I say, not as I do kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
But you're so passionate about this. So when did you first sense this calling of just, helping people build healthier relationships and stronger marriages? When did you
Okay.
first get this calling?
Yeah. So in 2008, right, I was struggling with my identity. Oh boy, it was such a struggle. So, I went to God, I was praying, God, what would you have me do beyond, me just being who I am, trying to say, okay, I want a better life and pursuing, maybe I have this ambition I want to pursue. There should be something much more than me just, existing right on earth. And of course, I had to go through that journey, where I began like, search myself, ask God, what's the purpose? And I started with youth, right? I started with, teens out of school, out of secondary school, of course, in Nigeria at the time, secondary school who were trying like, do exams as a jam to go into the university. And also I'd gather them, and then I'd begin to preach to them, tell them, try to mentor them. But along the line in 2011, after I got married, because I actually did face some opposition at the time, a woman, I mean, who was, bubbling for Christ, or I mean, I was ready to go all out there for God and all that. I was being called to come, speak at conferences and all. And I'd meet, sometimes, young men who would say, I mean, you won't go far because you're single, right? I mean, you can't go far. You can't go too far because, there's a cap, there's a ceiling, at the time in
Mhm.
Nigeria. And I knew that wasn't supposed to be, but I kept on going and all. But when I got married in 2011, God said it was time to make a shift. All of the things I taught you while you were single, all of the things, lessons you applied, all of those things, it's time to switch gears and, face the singles. This same youth, you've been mentoring, there'll come a time when they'll desire, marriage, relationship, you have to mentor them. And so I began to mentor them. But it wasn't just about mentoring them, because I knew at the time, there's this thing about me being able to, to teach certain things, take certain things, when it comes to relationship, marriage. And then when I break it down, people are like, oh, wow, where did this come from? I didn't hear this I never knew this, in that light. I never heard it before. I just knew it was something much more deeper. So the teaching ministry, of course, got birthed at the time. And we created, my husband and I, we created a WhatsApp group where we had single seminars every Tuesday. We'd teach singles, and something really remarkable happened. So singles came in to learn how to date, to learn how to find their right partners, to learn how to marry right. But in the process, they found themselves, worthy of marriage. So they began to like, beyond just getting the teachings, they began to, date themselves. They began to get married. So at the time, we had 50 marriages.
Oh,
In the
wow.
space of 4 years, we had 50 marriages, happen. So people who came in to say, okay, maybe I've been heartbroken a lot of times. I want to learn how to attract well. I want to learn how to position well. I want to learn how to, find the right lady, find the right guy. What happened? They came to learn, and in the process, they realized that no, I have to find my bone of bone and flesh of flesh here. So we had over 50 marriages. And
Wow.
I mean, safe to say that, things, how God did it, it was just so miraculous. People would come in casually, some people even came in with bad intentions, but in the process, of course, they got arrested by God, and it was not business as usual anymore. So we moved to Canada here, and then in moving here, the momentum has not stopped. Right? It has not stopped here. We host seminars, single seminars, marriage conferences. I have a show on radio, CKUW 95.9 FM, Relationship Lab. So it's just been, it's been from glory to glory. And, it's not
Wow.
that, one wants to take the praise of God, but when you realize that it is not about you. When it comes to a calling, it is not about you. It is beyond you. It is much more about what God wants to achieve on earth at this time. And we live in a time when a lot of people would say, oh, marriage is not my thing. The divorce rates, there are divorce cases here and there. And you're wondering, some people would say, okay, I want to remain single and all. There's the cliche or the thing about, okay, all men are, they are cheaters. They would always, that was one of the things that actually, got me really asking God, would you have made man, man as in man, and amongst men there'd be no faithful person? Because there was a time when all around me, everybody was saying, oh, all men are cheat, they're all the same thing. All men, every man. I'm like, no, it can't be now. God can't waste his resources to make man. And because he has made man over time, and one of the excuses they give is men are wired by what they see. Every man who is wired by what he sees cannot just be. And I'm like, no, it can't be. A lot of people may have gotten their fingers burnt along the line, but when we look deep down, there are still a few who can say, I am true to this lady. I want to stay true to her. I want to go beyond love, because many times people stop at the love realm. They stop at the love realm, forgetting that commitment is a higher realm, right? In the system of love. So people come in with that feeling into relationships, and they're like, okay, we're in love, I'm feeling this, but forgetting there are times when emotions come to play. There are times when this feeling, you don't feel up there anymore, and then you're trying to manually rev it up. Right? So, how it's like in Nigeria, where there are generators you buy and you have to like manually pull. And there are those you can actually use a key starter, to ignite. So initially in relationships, you find out that, okay, the kickstarter, which is the key, is working, and you're able to just turn on the ignition and the gen comes on. But over time, when the key spoils, you realize you have to resort to that manual pulling. You begin to pull in order to get the generator started. So I use that illustration to, say that is exactly, or that can be likened to what's happening in relationships. So when people come into relationships and the emotions, how it was pent up, you're asking questions now, it's plummeting, and you don't understand, what's happening. Then we realize that this is where commitment comes in, because you can love a person, you can stay committed to a person you are in love with, but you can't love a person you're not committed to. So a lot of people misconstrue love. They think love is just love. If you can't stay committed, because you'd find some people, some partners, maybe cheating, it's a habitual thing, every now and then. And they're like, oh, I love my husband. but you're cheating. I love my wife, but you're cheating. With commitment, I mean, just look at how our relationship is with God. God is committed to us. God does not only love us, he is committed to us. Bible says in John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he didn't stop at love, that he gave his only begotten son. That gave is the commitment there. So you can't say you love somebody and you're not willing to go the whole 9 yards in committing to the person. So when we find ourselves maybe in relationships, in marriages, one of the ways we can curb infidelity or curb disloyalty when people aren't loyal, is staying committed. But of course, it doesn't just come like that. You can't just hop on commitment when you don't love a person. And many times, the love we're talking about right now is not just the kind of love where you say, okay, is overt. It has to be covert. You don't look at it from, I am loving this person because, she's got an hourglass shape. Or I'm loving this person because, he's so muscular. Or I'm loving this person because she has a good job, or he has, fancy cars. He lives in a fancy mansion. It has to be overt. So it means the love that births commitment goes skin deep, if you may. It is skin deep. It goes way deeper than we can imagine. When we relegate love and commitment to just what we see, I'm so sorry. I think I've gone through how many things now. I've said a whole lot.
No, it's okay. You're covering all the questions that are listed. So go ahead. You're covering it. Go ahead. It's all good.
And I think I have covered more than what I'm supposed to say.
No, you've been covering because I'm like, you're covering all the questions I was going to ask. So no, you're good.
Okay. So yeah, so basically that's that. Commitment is, is more than skin. I mean, it's not what you do on just the surface. For me to say I'm committed to you in marriage, it means I am looking beyond what I see. I am taking on to the vision I had, the vision I first had for both of us. I tell people when you go into relationships, when you go into marriage, be sure you have a vision, a working system. Be sure you go in there with a blueprint. Bible says, who is that man who wants to build a house, who won't first sit down to count the cost of the building materials? So I want to own a house in Winnipeg here, for instance, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to live in a house already built. I want to start from the scratch. What do? I have to begin to also, make my own studies, feasibility studies. How much would it cost to buy this? How much would a bathtub cost? If I want a jacuzzi, if it's a hot tub, whatever it is, I have to begin to check myself to know, okay, would I be able to afford all of these things? And even if I were to get a loan from, whatever company, I need to be sure that the loan I want to get can cover what I, want to build. So if I am looking to say I want to stay committed to this person, it is much more than just saying I love this person. It's all about, okay, what is the vision? What vision did we have to start with? Or what vision did I have as a woman before I met my husband? And when I mean vision, I'm not talking about career vision. I'm talking about the vision I had for the kind of life I am hoping to build with whoever God brings my way. What vision do I have? Where do I see us in the next 5 years, 10 years? What's the short-term goals? What's the long-term goals? Where do I see ourselves, if Jesus tarries 50 years from now? That's vision. What kind of children will we raise? What kind of home will we have? What do we want to, teach these children? What legacy are we looking to leave with them? So a lot of times people go into marriage and begin to rack their brains on about all of these things. What legacy will I leave for my children? So they did not have the time to do that, or they never knew better whilst they were single. But of course, how, as they say better late than never. But ideally, that is why at the core of what I teach is making the most of your singleness. As a lady, making the most of your singleness. It is not a phase to, gallivant, to junket from one wrong relationship to another, to hop, because that phase is very critical. At that time, you have people, a lot of things are happening. There's this, sometimes there's this FOMO, fear of missing out. You're like saying, oh, if I don't date now, well, I might be missing out. If I don't, date this person, if I don't do this, if I don't do that. But we forget that singleness, that single phase is a blessing. It's a time to go to the drawing board and dot all I's and cross all T's. It's that time where you begin to count your costs. Do I have what it takes to build a happy marriage? Would I have the time, to build this happy marriage? Right? And if as a single lady, you're saying, okay, I am content with being single because I think, or I do know that success, marriage is not a determiner. It's not the yardstick to measure success. Neither is singleness, singleness, a yardstick to measure failure. You can't say a single person who has every other thing going on for them, who is actively maybe involved in building God's kingdom, who's got a good job, who can help people around them. They might not be wealthy or really, really rich, but of course, they can take care of themselves and still have some, change here and there to help people. And, to them, that's fulfillment. You can't measure that to be a failure because they are not joined to another person to get married. Yes, we do understand that the Bible says, of course, it was symbolic that God made Adam and he didn't leave Adam a single man. He built Adam. He built him up by giving him work, showing him what to do in the Garden of Eden, giving him more like a blueprint, if you will. But he didn't leave him like that. He still wanted him to move a step ahead he then brought Eve his way, just so that he could make a point. Right? However, if we think, because of course we know Jesus wasn't married, Paul wasn't married. If we think, or as women, or if some women think, okay, marriage is not my thing, I want to stay single, that should never be a yardstick for failure. Marriage is not a yardstick for success, because there are people who are married who are staying together, in fact, who have been together for many years, but will tell you, my marriage is a failure. Then you begin to wonder, how come you've been married 30 years? How dare you say your marriage is a failure? Then you realize that the number of years two people decide to live together is not the true measure of a blissful marriage, because they might be holding on to that marriage because they do not want their kids to come from a dysfunctional family, or they are holding on to that marriage because they do not want to be labeled divorcees, or they are putting up in that marriage just for the optics to make people think, okay, this is what it is. But in the real sense of the word, it isn't what it is. The true measure of a happy marriage is in the quality of marriage, in the quality of life, in the quality of happiness, in the quality of fulfillment the two people who are in the marriage are getting. And that can, of course, be measured by two people coming on social media and laughing and holding their
highlights. That they call it highlight reels.
Yeah, exactly.
highlight this thing. You're giving the highlight of that thing. So
yeah, exactly. So that is not a true measure, because at the end of the day, everyone, has what they're dealing with. All right. I tell people emotional intelligence is not enough. It's not enough to resolve any conflict, be it in relationship, be it in marriage. I was speaking at a fellowship the other day, and I was telling the people, I said, emotional intelligence, there's a limit to how it can carry us. Two people can be emotionally intelligent. Two people can know, okay, this is how to react. Let me not react this way. My partner is reacting that way. Let me not, be the one to trigger a problem. And so they resort to walking on eggshells. So everyone is being evasive. They are avoiding the problem. The problem is there, but they do not want to be the ones through which or from which this problem will come. Recall what the Bible says when Jesus was speaking to his disciples, I think in Matthew, I'm not so sure what chapter or verse, where he said that, offenses in life, offenses will always come.
It's gonna always be there. Yeah, it's always
Yeah.
gonna be there.
But
But
woe to
man,
the person, yeah, from
yes.
which or through which that offense will come. So in marriage, there are some kind of certain types of conflicts that emotional intelligence cannot solve. And this is where spiritual intelligence comes in.
That's why you gotta be rooted. I agree with that because that's why just to go to the foundation of everything, you have to be the bride of Christ. There's this there's a prophetess that I probably her name is Prophetess Tiffany Montgomery. She does this. It's called the Year of the Bride Fast, is what she
Okay.
does, and it's
Okay.
25 days of, and it doesn't matter married, single. It's for like this thing. The main thing is getting back to being the ultimate bride. Because at the end of the day, when we die, are we going to be in this marriage? We're going to be the bride of Christ at
Exactly.
the end of the day. So I think if
Exactly.
you have that foundation, especially as a single lady or even a single man, you have that foundation of being like, God is my ultimate. And especially if you're in a relationship with God, like, and I think you had mentioned like earlier when you say, oh, there's no good man, oh, there's this thing, there's power in words. So if you're saying that, words have, and the frequency and everything, words have
Yeah.
like there's power and death, life and death is really, truly, truly in the power of the tongue.
Yeah.
There's an
Yeah.
experiment I did with my kids in terms of showing them just words. We bought two plants and we talked to one plant in a nice way. We said good words
Wow.
to one plant, and we saw, and they could see physically. It was a physical thing to show them that the power
Wow.
of words. Because I'm always telling them, "Watch your words." They say, "Oh, I'm so stupid." Da 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 da. Da. And I'm like, "Yeah, watch
Mm.
your words." Like, okay, you want to be stupid? That's thing.
Right.
So we were. I was. It was a good way to show them that this is a physical. So there's, if you're saying, "Oh, all men are this, all men are that," I'm not saying there's not. I mean, there's good and bad in the world, not to say but if you're speaking life, if you're truly rooted, I feel like in a relationship with God, like truly, truly, like really, really, and that's the thing is, I'm sorry, like
Yeah.
some of these things can be vain, when we
Yeah.
look at some of these things, like, oh yeah, not, yes, God knows what you want. Yeah, you
Yeah.
want the good looking, you want, in terms
Mhm.
of this thing, you want the shape, but at the
Yeah.
same time, that shape in the long run that God is
Exactly.
seeing you, what is that shape going to do to you in the long run that can
Yeah.
be this thing at the end? So
Yeah.
he knows what's
Exactly.
best. And then seeking God, honestly, like truly, because that's the thing, is
Hmm.
like truly seek, like when they say seek, acknowledging him in all your ways and having that relationship with him,
Yeah.
he's not gonna steer you wrong.
Hmm.
He's not. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at when who was it looking like Abraham? Abraham was, God's friends when he was looking for a wife for his son. I mean, when he first saw Rachel, it was like he was
Yeah.
like, because I think his mom had died. He was
Yeah.
like mourning his mom. He was so happy when he
Hmm.
saw Rachel. So I feel like
That's
when
right.
God, is ordained, like if you're truly seeking God in seeking a
Hmm.
mate, especially from, because marriage is a decision. That's why people, I
Yeah.
think the thing is, people don't, if you're not educating people on just the, like marriage is a covenant and not just, it's
That's
not
right.
just for playing. It's not games. It's not
Hmm.
for little boys or little girls.
Yeah.
So if you're
That's
not
right.
mature enough, like you have to have some type of maturity to get married. It's
Hmm.
not it's not
That's right.
for small boys and small girls.
No.
It's not. So
Yeah.
you have to just build that in terms of just knowing that, hey, this is a covenant.
Yeah.
Not, and I think
That's
that's the
right.
thing is, this is a covenant. Like you said, regardless of, hey, you might be annoying me right now, you may be this thing right now, you've made me upset right now, but guess what? They still love in the end of it.
Hmm.
Guess
Hmm.
what? I'm still like, that foundation is there. It's like, okay.
Hmm.
And just going to God, because that's why it's like, man, God, this is your son. I don't know what's going on with him. Like, he just be in a relationship, like not going in terms of just, and sometimes somehow especially if both couples are like
Yeah.
having that relationship, praying, that kingdom relationship, like praying in, like in terms of this thing. Once that foundation is there, that's done.
Hmm. That's
That's
right.
it. But no, I love it. I love it. So what transformation do people experience like after working with you and learning from your ministry and coaching? What are some transformations?
Yeah, so of course, there's always an aha moment. Those moments where you're like, oh, I never knew it in this light. Oh, I thought it was this.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't know it was that. There was
Mhm.
this couple I worked with, one time, and they didn't go through premarital counseling because they thought they had read all the books, they knew everything. They had read books, they had taken some courses online, And to them, of course, they are busy professionals, but to them, they felt, okay, we know everything, But when they came, the challenge now was though they dated for a long while, but they still had that problem, And then I had to make them understand. There's that understanding that some problems can never be solved in marriage. I mean, if you look at a research, I used to struggle with that until I stumbled on John Gottman's one of his research statistics. He carried out a research on 100 couples, and he watched them closely for 2 decades, following up with their problems, the kind of challenge they were having, the kind of conflicts they were having, and he realized that only 31% of problems would be resolved in marriage. 69% of problems never get resolved. And those 69%, those are the ones that help build us up, because there you have your partner's weaknesses, you have their shortcomings. So for the couples, I mean, those ones I mentioned right now, that said they had read books, they had done that and everything. So after we went through the whole, the sessions and everything, and their problems, they now understood. There was that realization that some things are ingrained. Some things are there because of my partner's personalities. I can't change them. They are hardwired. But I must develop the fruit of the Spirit to know how to cope with them. So when they now realize that it has to be strong coping mechanisms in place in order, to build something successful, their mindsets changed. So there's always that mindset change of, okay, some problems, yes, we have to live with because of, okay, the environment my partner was raised in, the experiences they were exposed to, the patterns they've had to deal with, in some cases, maybe abuse, in some cases, ideologies they were not born with, but they picked up as a result of, mingling with friends and all of that. So there's always that level of consciousness, that realization where, I realize that this cannot just go away, but I have to live with it. And over time, who knows? Because you have accepted your partner the way they are, they can wake up one day and say, with all of my flaws, this person has just been, tolerating me. I need to change. And this is where you find out, I mean, it's all over. We say you can't change anyone. Nobody can be changed. The Holy Spirit will change the person. The day the person realizes and wakes up and says, I don't have to hang out with the boys anymore. Or, I don't have to nag again. Or, I don't have to treat my husband this way anymore. The day they realize that, okay, there's something that is shifting on their inside, not because of what their partner is trying to do on the outside. Because sometimes you find out that partners, the way they try to change us is maybe they're like, try to enforce certain things, and then because, you're dealing with another adult, sometimes people get pig-headed. They're like stubborn. They're like, okay, you can't change me like that. It is who I am. But when there's that, okay, I am coping with who you are, and I'm also making changes, trying to make some changes. You can wake up one day and realize that, what happened? The things I used to do that would rile my partner up, that would cause them, to spit out bile, I don't do anymore. Then you realize that it's not about you or about your partner. It's about something, a higher authority who's helping you on the inside, the Holy Spirit, who's helping you make this change because of, the kind of efforts your partner is making. So when I have to, when I deal with, couples or even singles, it's always that awakening to the fact that it used to be this way, and it is no longer that way. I thought it was that way, but it is actually this way because this is actually how it was designed. And with the kind of approach I use, I don't, because sometimes you encounter clients who will tell you, I don't want the spiritual approach. I'm a Christian. I'm a Muslim, and so I don't. So for such clients, that, okay, let's look at it from that psychological angle, So I try to blend the two. And even when I'm using, things from the Bible, principles and all that, for such clients, who are, anti, quote unquote, of course, God. And doesn't mean I don't try to say, okay, as a Christian, you don't just let them go. You make an effort to say, okay, this is what I think, the Bible says, or what God recommends. But there are ways you would frame these things so that it doesn't look as if you're shoving your own religion or belief down their throat. And if you look at it, even with the approach I use, with the psychological approach I use, psychologists have said that Jesus is one of the best psychologists that ever lived. Because if you look at the New Testament, he touched on different areas without even being a psychologist. And what do psychologists do? They study the mind. It's the study of the mind, how the mind works, behavioral tendencies. In the Bible, you find where Jesus was speaking about emotions, was talking about, okay, for instance, when you go to preach and you're not received, dust your slippers, you and your people, dust your feet and leave, right? Don't attack. That's at the heart of psychology. That's at the heart of, knowing how to act behaviorally. That's the heart of, emotional intelligence, knowing when to react, knowing when not to react, knowing when to walk away. I mean, I could go on and on about the things Jesus spoke. There are things also in the Bible about, okay, don't be wicked, don't be gentle, be kind. Yes, as Christians, we know these things are the fruit of the Spirit, but psychologically, in order to have a working mind, I mean, you can't show up, being rude, you can't show up being kind, because psychology is at that soulish realm. When the mind is being studied, it's at the soul. And as Christians, we realize that we are spirits, we have a soul, and we live in a body. But we do not just stop at that soulish realm where we are dealing with people through our minds. This is where what I did mention about spiritual intelligence comes in, where we understand that where our emotions fail us, where we cannot show up emotionally intelligent anymore, the Spirit takes over, because according to Galatians 5:22, I hope I'm getting it right, where it talks about the fruit of the Spirit, we know, okay, because we have the Holy Spirit, we have joy, we have peace, we have love, we have kindness, there's gentleness, there's meekness, there's patience. All of these things are virtues that emanate from the mind, based on what you are thinking per time. If I have a wicked thought towards someone, I am not being kind. If I decide to go and talk brashly at somebody, I am not being, gentle with my words. If I say, okay, I just don't like this person because, she doesn't, maybe she doesn't say hi to me, and I just pick, a hatred for her, I know I am not loving anymore. All of these things are the fruit of the Spirit. And psychology as a study recognizes all of these virtues. So when we say Jesus was one of the greatest psychologists that ever lived,
Wow.
it's not far-fetched.
That's true. Wow, that's true. And just I feel like just even in general, the Bible is should I say life biblical. People see that as just a mere book. You shouldn't
Yeah,
be reading
yeah,
the Bible just like that.
yeah,
I mean, especially in the Proverbs, like it's so many
yeah,
different guidance of just how to act in life.
yeah,
And it's just
yeah,
basic principles
yeah,
that it
that's
has
right.
on there. Even just saying, I think in the Bible it says like, the woman is the weaker vessel. Not to say
Vessel,
that she's
right.
this thing of just to be gentle with her, of just
Yeah,
it's showing you how right there, of just how
that's
to deal
right.
with a woman like she's a gentle vessel, like she's the
Yeah,
not to say like all this thing, but it's like you have to like treat. I think it said treat her, be gentle with her in terms of like have understanding with
yeah,
her. So it is there, but this is some good stuff. I'm enjoying this. So you host a relationship lab on CKW 95 point,
yeah, that's
CKUW,
right.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
95.1 FM
TKU, yeah, W, right?
W.
That's right.
That has a so what has radio taught you about honest conversations and relationship growth?
Yeah, so initially I used to think radio was all about performance. Show up for your time slot, come and show up, try to perform your best. But I realized that honesty, being honest, being yourself, actually helps you connect more with the people. Because with the way the world is going, people aren't looking for performers anymore. They're looking for real stuff, especially when we live in an age where there's AI everywhere. There's, artificial intelligence, and there are deep fakes here and there. People aren't showing up real anymore. There are clones everywhere. I'm not saying these things are bad. They're not bad. They come to help us, of course, to, make life easier. There are two sides of, there's always two sides of the coin, they say, there's always the good side, there's the bad side. But right now, you're scrolling on on social media, and, maybe to an extent, you're encountering more contents that are not real than, authentic. So I realized that being on radio is able to help me show up authentically, show up just like me, because I am not trying to put up a performance, but I'm trying to help people navigate their challenges, navigate their problems in the best way, that I can. And the best that I can give the listeners is to show up authentically. When I mean show up authentically, I mean making sure I am sharing or presenting not from a place of do these things and I don't do them, but from a place of what I'm sharing with you, I practice them. What I'm sharing with you are principles I use presently in my marriage. What I share with you are the things that, they're working for me. They can work for anyone, right? So I'd say authenticity is the watchword when it comes to, me showing up and, having to reach out to those people. And over time, it's been wonderful because I realize that I'm also fulfilling purpose. There's that sense of fulfillment, that sense of accomplishment that comes with knowing that somebody is listening to you, but not listening to you because you're just doing it because you're being forced, or you're showing up because, one, it's a passion, two, it's a calling. And you do know that because you're in the line of duty, you're fulfilling God's purpose for your life, and you're also helping someone else fulfill God's purpose for their lives. Now, I say someone else fulfill purpose for their lives because somebody might be at the verge of making a decision marriage-wise, and they get to hear something, a nugget or something you just shared, and they're like, wow, I think I should do this, or I needed to hear this. Then they say, okay, because of what I just heard, I think I'm going to be going the wrong path. I don't want to go the wrong path. So they make a U-turn. Somebody, for that person, you may have helped them cut the problems of life in half by not allowing them make that all important decision to marry the wrong person or date the wrong person or, heal trauma, so that's basically it for me.
Wow. So, what advice would you give a woman who desires marriage but also wants to prepare herself in a healthy and faith-centered way?
Okay. First and foremost, I tell people the first step to a lasting marriage, the first step to finding the right person is not finding the right person. The first step to finding the right person is finding you. Finding you. Know where you stand with God. Know where you are with Him per time. Know why you exist. Know why He's called you into existence. Why did you survive among so many cells or sperm cells that were destroyed? Why are you here? Now, when you answer those two questions, it helps you chart your course and navigate to the right person. So a single lady who's looking to build the right marriage or attract the right man, go into the right relationship, your first port of call is know yourself. And you don't know yourself in isolation. It has to be knowing yourself in God. Know where you stand with Him. When you know where you stand with Him, then He begins to show you. Then He begins to teach you. In the book of Isaiah, it says, you will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way to go, walk ye in it. There's a limit to what we can achieve when we say we want to live without God as women. Yes, some women are doing it. We can say some women are killing it, in the workspace as career woman, they're doing well. Well, yeah, they're doing well. But of course, as Christians, there's this thing about knowing exactly God's perfect will for your life, knowing His perfect will for your life. The Lord's Prayer says, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So it's all about us aligning with God's will in heaven, right here on earth. But we can't know that if we, live outside of God's will. It has to be in God's will. So for that single woman out there or that lady out there who's all about, okay, I want to attract the right person. I want to get married right. I don't want to hop in and hop out again. It's all about you. It starts and ends with you. Because sometimes, or many times, we are prone to pointing accusing fingers, especially as women. We like, okay, it's the man I married, or it's this man, he deceived me. No, where were you when he deceived you? What did you know? What was your value like when he deceived you?
That's true.
Right? Did you see the handwritings on the wall? Many times when people come to me and say they're heartbroken, especially ladies, yeah, I do my best, as a coach to help them, and I, as a pastor, to help them spiritually. But I also make them understand that you bear 80% of the blame goes to you, because chances are that you saw the handwritings on the wall. You saw them, you neglected them. The red flag, and there's this adage in Igbo language. My grandmother used to use it, but it translates as remove the hand of I don't know what they call it now. Remove the hand of a big rat or something from your food, because before it turns to the hand of a monster. Right? So when you have something in that small form, you have like a rat, something like in a mouse, shape, or a mouse form, something as big as that, troubling you. You have to make moves, make the move, make amends, do what you have to do before it turns into the hand of a monster. So it's easier to deal with a little problem by saying, okay, I want to make a U-turn, or I want to fix it, than saying, okay, I'll just allow it, let it go, I'll change it, maybe I can change this problem, maybe I can solve this problem. Then it begins to grow into a monster, then one day it grows into a big monster that you can't deal with anymore. So, yeah, those are the things I advise.
All right. So this is the Becoming the Proverbs Their Woman podcast. And I always ask all my guests, what's a quality of the Proverbs Their Woman that you most identify with?
Okay, tough question. She had lots of qualities worth emulating. I'd say submission, the submissive part of her. Although Proverbs 21, 31 didn't expressly, project that part to us, but we can see from how her husband, was celebrating her. Her husband was a kind of man that was proud of who she was. He was proud. Now, I'd like to think about it like this. If a woman is rich, successful, and she's so cocky, she demeans her husband, she talks him down, tears him down at every little or at every slightest provocation. That kind of man won't be very happy at the gates, boasting and saying, see my wife passing at the gates, boasting with his friends. There was that sense of fulfillment that, look at the woman I married. And I want to believe that this woman, whom he was boastful of, was such a woman who was submissive, who didn't tear him down because she was industrious, who didn't tear him down at home because, she had everything going on with her. Chances are that if they were both, in public, she'd outshine him when it comes to speaking in public. Not because, of course, she was cocky, but maybe because, she's a naturally, eloquent kind of woman who would want to stand up. So in the face of all of that, she didn't look to me, like I said, though the Bible didn't break this down, but in my place of meditation, I just realized that this woman wouldn't have been the type of woman who was not submissive to her husband,
right?
Who was not loving, who didn't respect him, who didn't respect that maybe sometimes she had more than him, or maybe it's her own money, even though, yes, we know the man also, there's also an angle of the Proverbs 31 man. The man also was not, a push around. He was okay in his own right. But I like the part where, I believe it's submission in the face of achievements. Because these days you find career women who are doing really well in their endeavors, in their place of businesses, and you can't speak to them. You can't talk to them.
That's true.
You see them, you're like, can this one be under a man like this? Can a man actually suggest one thing and they'll be able to take it? Right? So, but I believe the Proverbs 31 woman was not like that. The Bible, sometimes when we read the Proverbs 31, we're like thinking, she was a perfect woman. But I also believe she was the kind of woman who may have also been flawed in her ways, but her weaknesses may not have shown up, in that way that, okay, we will say, okay, maybe the man was just like regretting ever marrying her, or saying, oh, I married a boss lady who wouldn't allow me, breathe and all of that. I'm
Right.
sorry, I hope I'm not, it's just like I'm breaking down my
No,
meditation.
that's fine. No, that's fine. You're fine. You're fine. Yeah, so do you have any final encouragement you would give to women who want healthy relationships, stronger marriages, and stronger families?
Okay, so for women who are craving or looking to have better relationships, stronger families, make God the anchor point, make him your anchor. I say that to say that our emotions would fail us a lot. We are emotive in nature. Women are very emotive. We are so emotional. We can emotionalize everything. But I believe there are times when our emotions fail us, our spirits should be able to carry us through. And those things can actually happen when we are plugged into the source, when we make God our anchor. There are times as women, we get overwhelmed, maybe as a result of money in the home front, money in the workplace, doing stuff, doing this, doing that. Your emotions are getting in the way. The hormones are, running wild, running crazy. But when we are hinged, when we have that alignment with God. Yes, as humans, as women, there are times when we go into disalignment where, maybe as a result of what you face, you're disaligned today, or, something you're doing or not doing. But the ability to run back to God and retrace our steps and go back into alignment will change a lot of things. So for that woman out there, have your roots firmly in God. Be
Yes.
rooted in him. And don't allow the depth you have with God or you had with God yesterday be enough. Because some challenges that you faced yesterday, you were able to maneuver because of that depth. The ones coming tomorrow, you may need a deeper level of depth. If there's anything like that, you would need something much more deeper to conquer. And that is why we don't just stay at that level. We keep seeking God. Bible says, draw nigh unto me. God said, draw nigh unto me, and I will draw nigh unto you. I will show you things to come. A lot of women out there are conquering, not because they went to a soothsayer, not because they are prophets themselves, but because they are plugged into God. They are aligned with God so that God shows them things to come. God is able to say, oh, this challenge will come. Begin to make hay today. Make hay while sun shines. This problem is coming tomorrow. This financial problem I rear its head tomorrow. You don't know where the economy is going. Then they understand, okay, I need to start this new stream of income. I need to do this business here. I need to do that business here. Such things, such information do not just come by studying the metrics, economic metrics or economic system. It comes by being plugged into God. When God tells you this is what to do, begin to pivot. This is where to shift angle. You're doing this, add this one. Or you've been doing 10 things. Now streamline, maybe focus. Let it just be 3 things. And these 3 things, be rugged with it, pursue it. Then you realize that such things do not just come by, being intelligent as a woman or being overly educated or being, woke. It comes by being plugged into the source. So for that woman out there, be plugged into God 247.
Yes. No, yes, 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 yes. Definitely. Ruth is the foundation of everything. Is
Yeah.
to be plugged into him. So how can people connect with you, Joy? I know you're in
Okay.
Canada, so for us in the US and even
Yeah.
just Nigeria, how can people connect with you?
Okay. I'm on Instagram at underscore Joy Nwokoro. That's my name and my last name, but there's an underscore. That's at underscore Joy Nwokoro. I'm on Facebook too as Joy, my maiden name Aquara, then my last name, present last name Nwokoro. That's Joy Aquara Nwokoro. Then yeah, you can shoot me a mail too if you want to connect with me. That's joy.nwokoro@gmail.com. Yeah.
Okay, and I'll have all this in the sh in the description so that way people can, connect with you as
Thank you so
well.
much.
Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Joy. Honestly,
Thank
it's
you
been a
so much.
pleasure having you on. I've
Thank
learned
you.
so
Thank
much
you.
value,
Thank
honestly, with just
you.
relationship. This is very, very critical. Is
Yeah.
relationship is building like kingdom relationships.
Yeah.
That's so because nowadays the devil attacks marriages, and I know why.
Yeah.
Because a kingdom marriage can do damage to the kingdom
Yeah.
of
That's
darkness.
right.
So that's
Thank you
why he
so much.
attacks it. So that's why he
Thank
attacks
you.
it. So, folks, if you like content like this, like where Joy has just dropped, interesting content, and you like content like this, please share, like, and subscribe. And there's a new function now that's called Hype. Also, hype the information as well. I see a lot of people watch this with our viewers, but you guys are not subscribing. So if you could please just, share, just like and just subscribe. It helps us. I mean, just a little button, just a little click. It's just very easy. I think it's easy. Just click it, and that would just help us in pushing the algorithm to just let people, hear more content like this. So thank you, and thanks again, Pastor
Thank
Joy, for
you.
being on the show.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you so
folks,
much. It's an
that
honor. God bless you. Thank you so
oh,
much.
oh, thank you, thank you. So, folks, that's another episode of Becoming the Proverbs Third Woman podcast. My name is Chama Kende, also known as your host, Special Agent Chi. And until next time, stay blessed. Bye, everyone.
Proverbs 31 woman.